Hello everyone, this is Vikram and welcome to my channel. In this video, we'll see how to set up the local dev environment for working with Python. We'll see the various editors and IDEs available for Python and major difference between the editor and an IDE. Throughout the course, we'll be using VS Code as our primary editor, so we'll spend some time in customizing VS Code with the various extensions. So these are the end goals. We'll talk about various editors and IDEs available for Python, and then we'll download and install Python IDLE, which is a standard Python IDE from the official Python organization. We'll also see how to download and install VS Code and then customize it with various extensions. We'll also see various online interpreters available, just in case if you want to test a piece of code without actually installing Python in your local machine. And at the end, we'll also talk about Python Jupyter notebooks, which are kind of interactive notebooks that can run a Python language. So the end goal is like this. Once we install VS Code, it is going to look something like this, which is kind of boring. But with proper themes and extensions, we can make a VS Code look something like this. Now, what is a code editor? Code editor, also known as text editor, are great for writing and editing the code files. They are usually lightweighted and suitable for development of small projects, also known as small POCs. However, once your program gets larger or your project becomes larger, you need much more capabilities in the editor, like testing and debugging your source code other than simple editing. So that is where IDEs comes into the play. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. And depending upon the language one codes on the editor, it highlights special keywords and gives some suggestions. Let's say that VS Code is a text editor, Sublime Text is a text editor, Atom, VI, Vim. These are all text editors. So they does some kind of syntax highlighting, and they also give some sort of suggestions. But these are only meant for small projects. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment, which is a kind of a software that you install in your local machine. It usually comes with common developer tools that are packed into a single user-friendly graphical user interface. And an IDE majorly consists of a source code editor for editing your source code files, local build automation for creating a local build. That means they also comes packed with build tools necessary to compile your source code. And a good IDE must possess all these features, like save and reload your source code, execution from within the environment, debugging support, syntax highlighting, automatic code formatting, and completion. That means you don't have to go outside your IDE to compile your source code, because all these features will be included within the IDE itself. So even the debugging becomes easier because debugging tools will be packed into the same IDE. And these IDEs comes with automatic code formatting. Let's say you're writing a Python code or a Java code. So if you forget to maintain some formatting, so these IDEs will automatically format that document for you with a single click of button. And they also support automatic code completion if you don't want to write the complete command. So once you start typing few characters in that command, so these IDEs can automatically suggest you the complete command, or it may automatically complete the whole statement itself. And some IDEs also include source code tools like GitHub, so that you can directly clone your repository into the IDE, or you can also push your source code from the IDE into the GitHub. Some of the IDEs include your standard Python IDLE, PyCharm, Jupyter, Spider. These are some of the famous integrated development environments for Python. IDLE stands for Integrated Development and Learning Environment, which is a kind of a default editor that comes with your standard Python installation. And this is the best Python IDE available for beginners. It supports multi-window text editing, syntax highlighting, integrated debugger with stepping. You can also put some breakpoints to check your code, and you can also see complete call stack visibility. That means the complete stack can be visualized in the text editor itself, in the IDLE itself, in case if you want to debug your source code. And in Linux, this IDLE can be installed with any of the package managers like apt, yum, etc. And in order to download the IDLE, it is www.python.org/downloads. The latest version is 3.10.2. So we'll talk about installing IDLE in the demo section. So we'll be primarily concentrating on the Windows, but for Linux, you can install with any of the package managers like apt and yum. So once you have the IDLE installed, Basically you can access the IDLE by using Windows Spotlight search. So you can just type Python, or you can also type IDLE, and you have to click on this IDLE, which opens the IDLE shell. Visual Studio Code, also known as VS Code, is fully featured code editor available for all the operating systems like Linux, Mac OS and Windows. And this is one of my favorite text editor when it comes to Python. It is very small and lightweighted, and VS Code is open source, and all these features can be extended by using extensions and various plugins available. So far we have more than 4700 plus extensions and plugins to further extend the functionalities of VS Code. And you can add a new language support to VS Code. Let's say I wanted to add Python or use VS Code for Python. In this case, I can simply install Python extension, and now VS Code is ready to work with Python. It also has integrated a powerful code auto completion engine called IntelliSense. So that means it can automatically suggest the commands, or it can also automatically complete your statements. And it also has a debugging console, which we are going to see in the actual demos. And it also has an integrated terminal. You can run any of the server commands in it, and VS Code will automatically recognize your Python installation. So as soon as you install a Python extension, it is going to read your Python local installation, and it will configure VS Code accordingly. So in order to download VS Code and setting up the editor, so this is one of the good link. So I suggest you go through this link. Installing VS Code. So once you download the VS Code, so you can install with bare minimum settings. So you don't have to use any of the extra settings. You can go with the default one, and once it is installed, you can just open VS Code, and this is the launch window. And coming to the VS Code plugins for Python, so by default VS Code doesn't support Python. It can be extended to work with Python with the various Python plugins. So these are the famous Python plugins, which are Python, Pylance, Python Preview, and Tab9 Autocomplete. So if you are a beginner, I highly suggest not to install this Tab9, because it will automatically complete your statements and various other commands in Python. So if you are a beginner, never do that unless you become comfortable with Python. And this Python preview plugin, which is a very important plugin, so this let you debug your code and see the real-time value of the variables directly in the IDE itself. So if you are beginner and if you want to understand various concepts in Python, like how does a list work, a tuple works, how the elements are stored, how the elements are read from the list, so we can use Python preview. So directly you can see the complete call trace, stack trace, and various other information in the IDE itself. And in order to know more about how Python preview plugin can be used, you can refer to the link shown in the video. And this is one more AI plugin called Sorcery. So it is it is up to you to either install or ignore it. It has both free and pro versions, so do check out. And if you are interested, you can go to VS Code extensions panel and install it from there. And these are very two most important links. The first one is various extensions supported for VS Code. So I think there are 1000 plus extensions, and the information is given in the GitHub repository. And if you want to customize VS Code with various themes, so do check out this other link. PyCharm. PyCharm is another popular Python IDE developed by JetBrains. So it has two versions. One is the community version, and the other one is professional version, which is a paid one. And it offers very advanced features such as database management and support for latest frameworks such as Django, Flask, Fast API, Google App, etc. The free version offers different features like bare minimum features such as syntax highlighting, auto completion, debugging, and live code verification. So these are all already being offered by VS Code. So we prefer VS Code over PyCharm in the beginning. And you can download PyCharm from this link given in the video. And how do you, so once you install PyCharm, so in order to create a new project, you can just open PyCharm and click on new project on the left. And after clicking on the new project, one more window will be popped. and here you have to select your base interpreter. Let's say that you have two interpreters downloaded in your local machine, so Python interpreter 2 and Python interpreter 3. So basically for this kind of project, which interpreter you wanted to use, that has to be selected during the project creation stage itself. And similarly to VS Code, PyCharm can also be customized with various plugins and themes. So all you have to do is, once you open PyCharm, you have to click on file and go to the settings, and you can search various plugins and themes in the marketplace. Anaconda distribution. So this Anaconda distribution is majorly for people who are working on data sciences. This Anaconda distribution is a complete software suite, so that is useful, and that has various tools needed for working with AI, machine learning and data science. So this is distribution of Python and R programming languages and all the supported packages needed for scientific computing, data science, machine learning and large scale data processing. So it is a toolkit with thousands of open source packages and libraries, and it also simplifies the package management. So if you're coming from the Java background, we have Maven as a build tool, so that does the dependency management very easier for us. Similarly, in case of Python, we have pip. In case of data science, we have so-called Conda, which is like a package management similar to pip. So there is a difference between Conda and pip. So when pip installs a package, it automatically installs all the dependent Python packages as well. So we call this as a trans to dependencies. That means if one dependency depends on some other dependencies, so it is a duty of the package managers to download all the other dependencies as well without us manually mentioning them. In case of pip, if there are any collisions with the dependencies, so these will not be considered. So when pip installs a package, it automatically installs all the dependent packages without checking if these conflict with the previously installed packages or not. But in case of Conda, since we work on very production level applications that involves AI and machine learning, so we cannot have this kind of an arrangement which pip does. Instead, Conda analyzes the current environment, including everything currently installed, and if it finds any collision or any conflicts, it is going to throw a warning, and it is going to stop the dependency installing at that point. And you can download Anaconda from the link in the description, given in the video. Now coming to the Anaconda navigator. So once you have the Anaconda installed, so you'll get an an application shortcut. So this is called Anaconda Navigator. So you can use Windows Spotlight search to search for Anaconda Navigator. So this is basically GUI to launch various applications. So as we said, that Anaconda distribution is a suite of various applications. So once you open Anaconda Navigator, you can use Jupyter Lamp, Spider, PyCharm, RStudio, Visual Studio Code. So all these are comes by default with the Anaconda Navigator. Even Visual Studio also comes with the same distribution. And coming to the Jupyter Notebooks, so Jupyter Notebooks are formerly known as IPython Notebook or Interactive Python. So as the name itself indicates, it is interactive. That means so you can interact with the notebooks. It just feels like a real notebook. So you have a question, and the bottom of the question you'll have the answer to it. So it is something like that. So Jupyter Notebook is a flexible tool that helps you create readable analysis as you keep both code, images, comments, formulae and plots together for easy presentation. So let's say that I have a Python source code. So that is only the source code. It doesn't contain any end result. But in case of interactive Python, so you can have answers to each command. Let's say your Python program has 10 lines. So what does each line output? So even that can also be put in the notebooks. So this will be helpful in case if you want to share this notebook with others, showing your plots, formulae in the same notebook. So we'll talk about these Jupyter Notebooks a little later, because we won't be needing it unless we plan to work on data sciences, in which case you'll use Python. So launching Jupyter Notebook, so you can launch it from the Anaconda Navigator directly, or else you can also use Windows Spotlight search to search for Jupyter Notebook. And once you click on it, it is going to start a local server, which is basically running on 8888 port. So in most cases your browser will automatically get open once Jupyter Notebook initialization is completed, or else you can just paste the URL with the token given in the terminal. And once you have the Jupyter Notebooks open, you can click on the new and then select the Python 3. By default Python 3 is the default language, but you can add various other languages support as well. So once you select Python 3, so a new notebook will be opened, and you can just click on the untitled to title your notebook. And once you write a single line, so you can click on the run button to see the output. So similarly, if you are planning to work with NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib in case of data sciences, so for every statement, let's say you're plotting an XY graph, so in this case you can have that graph directly in the notebook itself. So it is very easy to share the notebooks and including your analysis and graph. So the final question is, should beginners avoid using IDEs? So it is not necessarily. So as long as you know complete command, and if you feel comfortable with writing Python code, you can always use IDEs. But initially, if you are the beginners, so I highly suggest use plain text editors with no auto completion, no code suggestions, no auto corrections, etc., so that you will understand what are the errors that might come up when you write the source code. Now these are the various customizations that we are going to do in the VS Code. So first we are going to set icons theme as well as the overall theme of your VS Code, and then install various Python related plugins, including auto completion plugins like Tab9 and GitHub Copilot. And we'll also see how to install Git Lens. Basically we'll also be pushing our source code to the GitHub repository, so we'll also need Git included in the VS Code. By default some of these plugins get installed with the VS Code, or if they are not there, we are going to install them manually. We'll also see the plugins like HTML preview and to do highlight. Let's say you wanted to do some coding, or you wanted to implement some feature later. In this case you can write a to do text. So this to do plugin, what it will do is it is going to highlight all the to do text in your source code. Now we'll see how to install Python IDE and VS Code, and see how to configure VS Code with the extensions. So first we'll start with Python IDE installation. So I'm going to search for Python download, and this is the website, which is python.org. You can go through the documentation and other stuff. So the current version is Python 3.1.10.2. So I'm going to click on it. So I already have the Python 3.10.2 downloaded, so I'm just going to cancel this for now. So if you are from other operating systems, so you can select the various hyperlinks over here. Now let's go to the VS Code. I'll just search for VS Code download, and then just click on the first link, which is download VS Code. And for the Windows operating system, I'm going to select the system installer 64-bit. Just click on the 64-bit of system installer, and this is going to start. Since I already downloaded, I'm just canceling it. So I'm going to click on this Python IDE to install it. So I've just double clicked it, and now I can install now, and I can also customize the installation. So first let's click on customize installation. So all options are selected, and I wanted to install for all the users, so I've just checked this option for all users. And then click on just go back, and then also make sure that you add Python 3.10 to the path. Customize installation, next, install for all users, and then you can just download debugging symbols. It is not needed. Download debug binaries, it is also not needed. So this is the location where your Python 3.10 will be installed. Click on install. So now the setup is successful. I'll just click on close, and then open the Windows command prompt, and then type Python -version or -version. Okay, it should be -version. So then it is going to output the Python version, which is 3.10.2. I'm just going to close it. Now click on the other downloaded file, which is Visual VS Code setup.exe. I'm going to click on yes. and accept the agreement. Click on next. So this is where VS Code is going to get installed. Next, you can create your desktop icon. Add open with VS Code to the Windows Explorer file. We need this, and even we need this. Click on install. Launch Visual Studio Code. Now this is how Visual Studio Code looks like. So this is not so good looking. So first what we'll do is we'll try to install some themes and some extensions to make it look better. So in order to access the themes, so I can just click on this gear button over here and click on these extensions. And also you can also turn on the settings sync and sign in with your GitHub, so that all your settings, the extensions will be synced. So for now I'm just going to click on the extensions here, and then I'll search for the extensions. So the first extension I'm going to install is the VS Code Great Icons. So this is the VS Code Great Icons, and I'm just clicking on install, and it is installed. So you can just click on the select, so that will be selected. And the other one is the theme, which is basically Celestial. Click on this Celestial and click on install, and then select your Celestial theme. So if you are not getting that option, you can go to this gear button and click on color theme, and you can select Celestial from here. And also for the file icon, so click on file icon and then select the VS Code Great Icons. Close. And in order to zoom it, so you can press Ctrl and plus addition button, so it is going to zoom in. And the other one is Python. Click on Python and install it. So once it is in, while it is installing, let's search for Pylance. So even Pylance is also installed. So all the dependent packages will be installed. And one more extension, which is Python Preview. So Python Preview, install. The other one is tab 9. This is for Python JavaScript Auto AI, install. You can search for HTML preview, install this. To do highlighting, install. GitHub Copilot, this one, install. The other one is the Git Lens. This one, install. So all these extensions are installed. So now if you see on the left hand side, so you can see all the extensions like the source control. This is basically your Git. This is for testing. This is tab 9 AI autocomplete. This is Git Lens for working with Git. And you can see you can sign in with your tab 9 and sign in with GitHub to use GitHub Copilot. And also you can turn on the settings sync, and it is going to ask you to log in with your GitHub, so that all your settings will be automatically synced to GitHub. So this is how you if you want to create a new file, again we are going to see in the next class. So I can just click on the new file over here. I'm just going to write a simple print hello world. So I know that this is a Python, but the IDE doesn't know it yet. So I'll just click on I'll just press Ctrl S to save it, and I'm going to save it in the downloads. Let's say test.py. Click on save. So now if you see your icon is also changed to Python. This is due to VS Code Great Extensions, Great Icons file icon theme, this icon will be changed. And also if you see, your interpreter will be automatically selected if you click on the bottom. So Python 3.10.2 interpreter is automatically selected. If you have any other interpreter path, you can add it from here. And in order to run it, so I can just click on this run Python file here, which is going to open the terminal, and it will run. So here it is just printing the hello world. So this is how you configure VS Code with the various extensions. And in the next video we'll see how to work with basics of Python.
That's it for this video, guys. If you like our video, consider subscribing to our YouTube channel and joining our Facebook group. The links are given in the description below. You can also scan the QR codes being displayed in this video. And for any training requirements, you can join our Telegram channel where we post regular updates on our upcoming trainings. You can also WhatsApp us on the number being shown here. You can also drop us an email for any kind of training inquiries. Thank you.